It's a fascinating writing tip that I came across that's honestly changed my perspective on things. It can actually be a really moving experience to notice something pretty about another person's eyes the first time you're close enough to. One of the major downsides of the list format of description, where you just dump stuff like hair color, eye color, skin tone, height, build, etc. in one big block, is that you lose a lot of the little human moments where people are honestly liable to pick up details about one another. If you just tell me that, say, a character's eyes have flecks of green in them, that's boring. If your POV character notices the flecks of green in someone's eyes because they're sitting together on a couch and laughing and the light hits them just right and oh so and so actually has unfairly pretty hazel eyes, that's a moment. Trademarked. Yeah, I mean, this is something I had to learn too, where I realized that when describing a character, there's kind of two spectrums that you really don't want to fall into, which is overly describing your character, at which point your reader will most likely gloss over all of the details and just forget what the character even looks like a chapter later. And then there's under describing them to the point where they almost become a non-entity, where you just cannot imagine them, no matter how you have to rack your brain to try to imagine them, and just become these invisible non-entities in your mind. There's definitely a risk in falling to either category, but the best way that I found is giving a very short and snappy general description of the character. Just a small little tease that's, impactful enough that it stays in your reader's mind. And then over time, if it's a reoccurring character, hopefully, if it's a character that's supposed to be a one-off, then generally you describe the thing that's most striking about them, and that's it. If it's just a one-off character. If it's a reoccurring character, give a general description, and then over the course of the story, bring out some of those more striking details over time to really paint like a full picture of what your character looks like. One good example of this that comes to mind is Harry Dresden from Dresden Files, where Jim Butcher gives a very decent description of what Harry Dresden looks like in the beginning, where he's this tall, leanish guy with kind of a scruffy-ish face. And over time we get a little bit more of a description, or a bit more about his physique, about his facial features, about what's most striking about him, like the fact that, because most of the time he has his eyes cast down, people oftentimes think he's, has mental problems or something like that. And that's one, good way of really painting a picture of the character you're writing. It's your average Hufflepuff. Things to bring back in books. Chapter titles. Actually having a synopsis on the back instead of reviews no one will read. Some excellent addition from the notes. Maps. Indexes of characters and places with pronunciations. Numbering books in a series on the spine. Tables of contents. Yeah, that first one is really something that I really need in my books, right? Like even something simple, right? Because just a chapter number, especially in a big book with a lot of chapters, you're not going to remember which specific number it was your favorite scene was in. More like something that actually latches onto your mind is a snappy title that sets the mood for the chapter. Now, that isn't to say there are books where having a chapter title would degrade the actual quality of it. There are definitely cases of that I can imagine happening. In general, I think chapter titles are a good idea. Also, yes, a synopsis. Oh my goodness. The amount of times I've come across something, had an interest in reading something, and then just only saw reviews and vague praises that give very vague ideas of what the story is actually about. I immediately want to put it away because I don't know what the book is about. How am I supposed to be hooked onto it if I don't know what it's about. Maps, I mean, yeah, I guess if you're trying to seriously write a fantasy story and it's supposed to be an epic fantasy, yeah, a map would probably be nice. Indexes of characters and places with pronunciations, yes, this is definitely something that would be nice in a lot of books. Numbering books in a series on the spine, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Tables of contents, well, I think most books have that, right? Most? I haven't got anything that didn't have that. Could be wrong. But yeah, these would be nice additions to most books, for sure.